It is rare that anyone here gets super pumped up about a laptop, and when it happens it's pretty special. Well, Sierra tried the MSI Thin, a 15-inch gaming laptop, and she was pretty pumped about it. Not because it's an amazing gaming laptop, but because of its price. It can regularly be found for under $600 US. Normally a laptop at that price point is utter garbage, and this one isn't. It's a viable gaming machine. And you see, this got us thinking. If you only had a budget of $600 US, what should you buy? So we did what we normally do and thoroughly researched each laptop at this price point. We made sure we'd either tested it already or we went out and got it. Now, I don't want to steal Sierra's thunder more than I already have here, as this video, it's really her baby. So here she is with the best gaming laptop for $600.
Normally, if you only have $600 to spend on a gaming laptop, we are the first channel to recommend a secondhand, refurbished, or returned one on a discount. And we stand by that recommendation. But if you want a new laptop, I did find some viable ones. Let's go over what to look for, what to avoid, and then I'll go through which laptops we recommend. In this price range, the first rule is that you absolutely have to buy something on sale. When I was doing the research for this video, I found 0 viable gaming laptops that had an MSRP of $600 or less. But many of them dropped into the price range frequently. So, you're going to be tracking sales and discounts to find something decent, which our website bestlaptop.deals can help you do with our price tracker. Shopping sales may seem obvious, but it's important to remember a laptop's MSRP is not always its most common price. Don't get discouraged by the number on the sticker. Next thing to pay attention to is a laptop's specs. Make sure you know what you're buying in terms of RAM, storage, CPU, and GPU. A lot of the laptops I found in doing the research for this video were absolutely not viable. 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, no dedicated GPU. Those would be almost completely unusable for the average gamer. So, your options may be limited on a budget, but we have some minimum recommendations for you. The biggest factor in games is going to be your GPU. We highly recommend a dedicated one for a gaming laptop. Ideally, you're going to want to look for an NVIDIA RTX 5050. That's the newest generation and offers more VRAM, which is important for gaming at higher settings. I didn't find any in the price range yet, but we did buy our open box, aka returned LOQ, with one for around $670. So seriously, keep an eye out for those refurbished and open box deals. More realistically, if you're buying brand new, you can find a few 4050s in this price range, which are a bit worse than the 5050. RTX 3050s are the most common, which unfortunately see a bigger drop in performance from the 4050. There are also some AMD Radeon dedicated graphics available, such as the RX 6550M. This performs about the same as a 3050 according to benchmarks. Again, we really recommend the 4050 or 5050 over either of those. Quick warning on shady sellers on Amazon, though. I found lots of laptops that listed their CPU's integrated graphics as GPUs in the listing, which is technically correct, but also very misleading. Don't fall for listings that call out Radeon Vega 8 graphics, for example. Not only is this not a dedicated GPU, it's a very old integrated one. Those graphics don't come close to the power of dedicated ones. Just Google the components to double check if you see something I didn't mention today. No integrated GPU currently competes with dedicated GPUs for gaming performance. At least, not in this price range. Another important factor with the GPU is how much wattage it is being fed. Just because a laptop says it has a 4050 doesn't mean it is feeding it enough wattage to get the full performance out of it. This, unfortunately, will not be listed on most product pages, and you will have to find independent reviews to confirm this number. Many YouTubers, like us, will include that information. You can see it here on our graph right next to the GPU name. You can also see here how much of an impact it has on performance, just from the different 4050s we've had in. Next, let's talk CPU, which can also have a large impact on gaming performance, depending on the games you play. This is where a lot of these manufacturers cheap out and use a much older processor to offset costs. We've tested a variety of CPUs that can be found in this price range. Based on these results, we would first recommend Intel 13th Gen. These can be found in the Tuf F16, LOQ, or the Gaming A16. Since Intel's CPU names are super confusing, I'd recommend looking at the letters at the end. HX is their higher performance tier, and H is their slightly lower one. i5 versus i7 is more of a secondary factor in performance. We could also see AMD's Zen 4 processors being a decent option at this price range, although these weren't very common. We'd recommend avoiding anything older than either of these. Our least recommended CPUs are AMD's Zen 3. Zen 3 processors have a 3 in the third digit of their CPU number instead of a 4, and these suffer from very poor single-core speeds. This can heavily hinder gaming performance. If you're wondering what the main difference between older and newer CPUs is, it's usually how much performance you get for the amount of power you feed it, aka efficiency. Older CPUs like 13th Gen and Zen 4 are going to have worse power efficiency than newer ones in more expensive laptops. Materially, this means they'll feel warmer, have more fan noise, and possibly worse battery life. Now let's look at RAM. 16 gigs is ideal, but you may have to compromise down to 12 gigs. We wouldn't recommend much more than that, as you should be spending that on a better GPU. For storage, you should be able to get at least 512 gigs. 1 terabyte or more is preferable, as games take up a lot of space, but it doesn't seem very common at this price point. The good news is most gaming laptops have upgradable memory and storage, so this is something you can fix later. Now, let's get into the laptops I've seen drop into this price range, starting with the one that inspired this video, the MSI Thin 15. At the time of writing this, it is on sale at Walmart for exactly $5.99. Links to all the laptops I mentioned will be below this video. The Thin comes with an Intel i5 13th Gen processor and an underwatted 4050. In gaming, the Thin's performance is pretty solid. At its native resolution on high settings, you should be able to comfortably hit 60 FPS in most games. Compared to the $800 gaming A16, which has a higher wattage 4050 and a better processor, we are seeing anywhere from the same performance to a nearly 20% drop. This would be a larger drop if it wasn't for the Thin's resolution. MSI has given it a 1920 by 1080 display, which is lower than the 1920 by 1200 of the A16. The Thin has 10% less pixels to render, which means you can get more performance out of its parts. That's why, in a game like Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, it seems like these laptops almost tie. In CPU-only performance tasks, we'd consider this i5 as entry-level for something that requires a bit of performance, like programming. It will get the job done, but it's not stellar by any means. It falls below better i7 CPUs from the same H series, like the one in the gaming A16. Some of its pros are that it's quite light and portable for what it is. With its charger, it weighs less than Lenovo's LOQ. The Thin speakers are also weirdly good. It gives you 16 gigs of memory that is upgradable, dual storage options with SSD and SATA, Wi-Fi 6E, and its screen has a high refresh rate with no noticeable ghosting. You can also adjust it to a lower refresh rate for better battery life. A big win for this laptop is that it didn't get very warm on the keyboard deck when gaming, which can't be said for a lot of cheaper gaming laptops. Some of its cons are that its memory is only DDR4, not DDR5, its screen colors are a bit off, the display doesn't get very bright, and the chassis looks and feels cheap. And its port selection is a bit dated. For example, it has an HDMI 1.4 port on the back, which only supports 4K at 30 Hz. It also lacks USB-C charging functionality, but its 120-watt charger isn't very heavy. My biggest personal con on this laptop is that its trackpad is dreadful. It rattles, and it's very clunky. Luckily, most gamers like to use an external mouse. Overall, I really like this laptop for a casual gamer or a student considering it's so portable. Next, I'll go over the most popular budget gaming laptop, Lenovo's LOQ. This laptop has many different CPU and GPU variants, so what I said earlier about what to look for really applies here. There are 2 configurations that I've seen near the $600 price point. One with a Zen 3 Ryzen 5 processor and a 4050 that I saw drop to $599 at Best Buy right after I started working on this video, and the newest 5050 version we bought as an open box. As far as performance goes, this laptop performs well for its components, on the upper end of comparable laptops. It feeds around 100 watts to its GPU, so it will perform much better in games than most other budget gaming laptops, even with the 4050 config. The cheaper version of the LOQ may be held back by its poorer single-core performance, though, which you can see in benchmarks from our other Zen 3 processors. That specific configuration would also likely have poor battery life, as that CPU doesn't have an integrated GPU. This means you'd be stuck running the dedicated graphics all the time. I saw this CPU on a lot of budget laptops, which is why I wanted to give y'all a fair warning. Some pros of this laptop are that it has a more comfortable keyboard and a nicer look and feel than most other laptops at this price point. It also offers upgradable DDR5 memory, a high refresh rate screen with decent color accuracy, a number pad on the keyboard, decent port selection with good placement, and USB-C charging. This means you can charge the laptop from the back or the side. Some cons are that it has a bit of keyboard deck flex, a loud, clunky trackpad, it's heavy, the display only goes up to 300 nits, there is a little noticeable ghosting, it only offers Wi-Fi 6, and it gets a bit warmer on the keyboard deck than the Thin does. It feeds more wattage to its GPU, so this makes sense. It's just something to be aware of. I would go for the LOQ over the Thin if you were looking for the best performance for your dollar. But be aware that you will have to sacrifice battery life and single-core speeds on the cheaper version. For HP's entry in this budget category, we have the Victus. This one also comes in a myriad of configurations. The main configurations I saw in this price range had either a Radeon RX 6550M or an NVIDIA RTX 3050, which we would not recommend. We still feel you'd be better off waiting for a 4050 version to go on sale. As far as GPU wattage goes, the Victus feeds its 4050 75 watts, so graphics performance would be about average. Now, here are the pros and cons of the Victus. I like the look of this laptop quite a bit. It even won our Most Incognito award last year for looking the most understated as far as budget gaming laptops go. I especially liked the blue color option. It also features a high refresh rate screen, a comfortable keyboard with a numpad, and decent thermals. In our testing, it stayed cooler on the keyboard deck than many others, and it still stayed very quiet during gaming. It even includes a full-sized SD card reader. The biggest downside to this laptop is that it usually only comes with 8 gigs of RAM. At least it's DDR5 and it's upgradable. Also, the screen is really dim with poor color accuracy and some ghosting, like most of these. Plus, it does not support USB-C charging. Even if you could get a 4050 configuration of this one with a decent amount of memory, we feel it's not offering as much as the others I've mentioned so far. Next, I'll go over Acer's entry in this category, the Nitro V15. It does offer some 4050 configurations in the price range, which is nice to see. The Nitro V14 I haven't found yet in the price range, but it is on our graphs to show a variety of CPUs. It has a Zen 4 processor. Back on the Nitro V15, it feeds its 4050 GPU 75 watts. There is a cheaper configuration of the V15 with a Zen 3 Ryzen 5 CPU that might hold back its gaming performance. We'd recommend waiting for the config with the 13th Gen i5 processor to go on sale instead of the Ryzen 5 one. The configurations and their prices can vary though, so let's talk about the rest of the laptop. When I first reviewed this laptop, its positives were that it offered upgradable memory and dual storage support, Thunderbolt, USB-C charging, and that's about it. I don't have any other pros listed other than its performance being a little above average. I didn't list it as one of the ones with a comfortable keyboard or a stylish chassis. It has a dim screen with poor colors. I think the team just found it pretty bland. Ethan said he remembered it feeling cheap, and our other main con for this one was its slightly high-pitched fan noise that turned on and off at random times. This is probably not one of our recommendations on this list, which is a shame considering Acer is one of our favorites in terms of price for performance in the more mid-range budgets around $800 to $1,200. Their Predator Helios Neo line in particular is high quality and offers fantastic value in every laptop we've tested. Today is about being super frugal though, so let's get back to that. Our final laptop line from ASUS is more of an honorable mention because I could not find a configuration at that magical $600 number. Even on sale, the Tuf Gaming A15 only dropped to about $650. This is also one of the lower configurations on the list, with a 3050 and that same Ryzen 5 processor. But the reason I am mentioning it is because ASUS usually makes a good laptop with nice build quality, nice enough keyboard, and decent cooling, although their screens do tend to be dim. Their Tuf Gaming F16 was the runner-up in our $1,000 video last year, and it was Taylor's favorite of the bunch. Most of the reason for that was that it performed the best and fed its GPU full wattage. If you buy a budget laptop from ASUS, you can usually bet that you're getting decent performance out of the components you are paying for. So, if a configuration of the Tuf with an RTX 4050 drops into this price range, this would be another one to seriously consider. Overall, the $600 price range is a tough one to shop in, and I learned a lot while doing the research for this video about what is and isn't a good deal. If you are shopping in this price range, you should be buying at least a laptop with an RTX 4050 and ideally a 13th Gen Intel or AMD Zen 4 processor. The LOQ offers the most performance and highest build quality of the laptops that drop below $600 with these specs. I also like the MSI Thin, particularly given how light and portable it is. If you're looking for more performance than either of these laptops offer, or a more premium feeling chassis, either look for a returned or refurbished laptop, or save up a little more. At the $800 price point, you can get a configuration with an RTX 5050 or a higher quality laptop such as Gigabyte's A16. Our website, bestlaptop.deals, tracks sales across all of these laptops, so definitely keep an eye out for it. I'd strongly recommend you set a price drop notification on the one you want to buy. You might catch a great sale. I hope this video helped guide you through what can be a pretty stressful shopping experience and gave you enough information to finally make a buying decision. Let us know with a comment below if you want more buying guides like this one. Until next time, I am not just Josh, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.